The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised. You are now entering the all-consuming realm of Shay's Paranormal Chat, where the things that are better left unsaid are actually said.
Shut up and sit down.
You're listening to Shay's Paranormal Chat. Paranormal podcasting done Shay's way. Tons of fun.
Dude, seriously?
A bit sarcastic.
Hashtag investigator, not hunter.
But always real.
Hashtag data, not evidence.
Don't get your panties in a twist.
Oh my god, really?
This is real, raw conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shay's Paranormal Chat. And as you know, it is season 4. Can you believe it? Holy crap. People have been listening to me for 3 seasons. That's crazy. Tonight, I am talking to the second co-host of the show, Mr. Christopher Brown. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be doing this. Very, very happy to be doing this, actually. We've been talking about doing this episode for at least a year now.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not out of the blue. It's something that we've been discussing and wanting to do for a very long time.
Yes.
So as you can tell from the description, we're going to be talking about depression and how that affects the paranormal and how it affects us as people. So I have no questions written down. This is just going to be all off the cuff, and a lot of personal stuff might come out. And that's how the show's going to go tonight.
Just winging it.
Just winging it, because I think that's best. I don't want to plan everything.
Well, especially when it comes to talking about this sort of stuff. Depression is not scripted, and depression is certainly something that everybody experiences individually. So, I think it's a good approach.
I do too, and I really think a lot more paranormal people suffer from depression but don't talk about it. As in everyday people. They're afraid to discuss it. And so I think this is an icebreaker, and I hope people understand where we're coming from and why we're doing this.
Yeah, ultimately I hope that somebody can hear our stories and kind of be like, oh wow, I'm not alone, and there are other people that are dealing with the same type of thing that I'm dealing with, or similar to,
Exactly. If you reach, I feel if we reach one person, that's good enough for me.
Yep, I'll call it a day. If one person is helped by this, then I will say that we did our job.
Exactly. So let's start with, we both suffer from depression.
Yes.
Yes. Mine has been a lifelong battle. I suffer from childhood trauma. So mine has always been lifelong. How about you?
It's pretty much the same. My life has been pretty rocky for the last, it's been good lately, but, for a good 30 years of it was just, it was ups and downs and backs and forths, and, a lot of PTSD I have
Yeah.
I definitely have a lot of clinical, as well as, back then it was a lot of circumstantial depression, but there's some clinical stuff there as well. And it's always been something that I've lived with, and I don't really know what it's like to not have that aspect in my life.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah. And there's times where I can be, I'm not like right now, I'm a very happy person and things in my life are very good and clicking, but, I still have those days where, I want to quit everything, or, I'm just like, I do mediumship and I just say like, oh, I'm done. I'm not going to be a medium anymore. I quit. And, what good does that ever do? It doesn't, but I still go through those moments and I can't seem to break out of that cycle sometimes.
It's very hard. I don't know about you, but I'm very private. Episode 1 of this season with Kelly, and this one, I'm going to be very open and very personal, and I'm not that way. I am a very private person. You never see me post my struggles.
Yeah.
So
and it's tough.
It is.
It's tough too. You have to deal with what you feel maybe somebody else might think about the situation, or what their take on it is. And sometimes, especially if they compound it with input, it can make you feel worse, and sometimes worse. And you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like the negative comments on stuff is really hard, but then also sometimes the pity comments that I used to get. That's why I stopped sharing my personal stuff, because it was fake and hollow. The pity stuff. Like, I haven't talked to you in 3 years, and now you're. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just like you can tell when something's hollow.
Yeah, you can absolutely tell. I mean, even if it's through a text or a comment on Facebook, you can get the context enough to be like, you hadn't cared in the last 3. Why bother to care now? I totally. I understand that for sure.
Yeah, and I am an absent friend. Like, but you know that I care about you. I'm not texting you every day, so I don't mean those type of friends. I mean the people that are posting or replying to your post just to do it because they feel like they have to.
Right, or they see it and they want to be recognized for their, public handout, and that. Therefore, they get a pat on the back because they commented. But
exactly,
I think that too with Facebook and some of the social media stuff, it's a lot harder too, because people don't get to see each other, especially nowadays, a lot with COVID, and so it makes it even more difficult. But Facebook can be so great, but it can be so damaging at the same time. It can absolutely add to depression. It adds to mine sometimes. There are times where I have to take a step back from Facebook altogether and just not even look at it.
I have to do that multiple times a week. I really do, because it's without saying, I'm not an empath, but I'm a very empathetical person. Is that the word? Did I say it right?
It can be. Yeah, empathetical. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not an empath. But I feel people's pain, and it just gets to me. So there's multiple times a week, 7 days a week, I would say 4 days a week, I have to put my phone away in the afternoon. Just nope, can't do it.
Because you're feeling other people's feels?
Yeah, I really do.
Well, then you're definitely an empath.
I don't like titles and stuff, but I don't know what to call me.
You have the basic human capacity to feel others' pain.
Yes, I do. And then it adds to my pain.
Yep. Now, do you find that things like that are triggering for you?
Sometimes. But I again, this has been a lifelong battle. So I have learned how to control the triggers, and I know when to shut things down and stop. But not always. Once in a while, I put up these Facebook posts that aren't nice. Not as often as some people, but once in a great while. A couple times a year, I'll put up a fuck you post to, because it just gets too much. But I recognize my triggers. I recognize what's going to set me off. I recognize my warning signs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to go from there.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how does it affect the paranormal side?
That's what I was going to ask you. So I'm so glad you brought it up. I know how to set my intent, and I know when I should and when I should not investigate. I strongly believe if I'm in a certain state, and other people, but I'm going to talk for me. If I'm in a certain state where I'm really down, really depressed, my coping mechanisms are off, which means I can't protect myself.
Right.
So I know when to and when not to investigate.
Yep.
How about you?
I don't. I honestly, I wish I had that skill, because there are times when I've gone on investigations and I'm already depleted because I've been doing like a lot of readings, let's just say. And then I'll get to these places and I'll have a great time and crazy energy and all this other stuff. And then I'll get home. And the next day or two, like, I am just so wrecked and I'm so depressed, and I'm like, borderline in tears, throughout the day, because it's too much, because I'm just completely drained. I'm completely depleted. And so unfortunately, I haven't quite figured out how to do that. I'm trying, I'm learning, to be able to identify when.
You're also a psychic medium.
Right. So when I'm doing
it's
my
different
work
than me.
as a reading.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. I mean, only in the sense that, like, like I said, doing the readings, throughout the week, and then going to a haunted location. I think that would be the only difference. But you still.
But you go to a haunted location, and let me tell you, he's a great psychic medium. Like, seriously. I don't endorse psychic mediums much. He's one of two that I really endorse. So anyways, my question is, you go to a haunted location, and you're feeling or picking up, because you're a psychic medium, on the spirits and energy are there. So that's taking away your energy, whether you want to or not. Like, it's not just readings.
That's true. That's true. And when I go there, I open myself up even more, because I'm trying to communicate and connect with them. So it's usually, and when I say them, it's multiple. So I mean, usually you go to locations, and this, there's more than one energy there.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they're all trying to kind of draw from me, it's tough. It definitely wears on me. I mean, just at Wilson Castle when we were there.
Oh, yeah.
When I was doing readings for folks there, I had there's the VIP ticket holders that I did readings for. The owner, Denise, her friend Linda, all those were awesome. But she wanted. There was another person, a couple other people that.
There's
wanted
a couple other, and at one
point
point, I finally said no. Like, if you don't say no, I am saying no.
Because you could see it in my face.
I could.
That I was just completely drained, and just because that was the start of it. Had I done those, I probably would have been worse off the next day.
No, and for the listeners, I told him, he either tells them nicely no, or I will tell them nicely no. There was no doing more. There was none.
No, that's true. Like I said, because you could just see it written all over my face that I was just completely drained. And they were nice about it, so I was able to give them my card.
They were great people, and they understood. It just, if I'm not a psychic medium, but I can understand the energy it takes a little bit to do it. And I know Chris well enough I could tell the difference. Like, it's the same with me with peopling. Like, I make jokes, my fake peopling skills. It's not fake. It just takes a lot of energy for me to do it.
See, that leads me to a great question, too, is do you find that you have to, especially when at events or in paranormal investigations, like not put up a front, but kind of like put up a front sometimes, especially if you're pushing through like a level of depression, like you find that you have to like, give yourself that extra pep talk of like, okay, I just got to be that little extra bubbly so they don't know anything's wrong.
Yes. All right. So this is how I explain it, because it's the same thing for doing shows. Most of my shows are live, except for this season. It's the same thing. It's still me. I just make sure I, what's the word?
Prepare.
Yeah, prepare, but I also make sure like I accentuate it. Like, it's really me, but I want the best of me to come out.
Exactly, yeah. And do you find that's extra or draining?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's why at Wilson Castle, like, all my friends are there. Chris, Toby, Tony, Travis. Now I'm going to forget somebody. Paranormal 5. Like, all my friends were there. But as you know, I had to keep hiding just to ground myself to on downtimes because I'm so busy interacting with people, and it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because I pick up on their energy, and then they pick up on mine, and I'm like, okay, positive energy.
Yeah, trying to put that out there, which is, again, I feel like that's, draining in and of itself as well, because if you keep constantly having to try to push that out there, it'll just, I'm not going to say deplete you, but it's difficult to keep that level up, especially when you're dealing with that depression and that kind of like energy draining.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's face it, the past few years have been rough for you too, for both of us. And like you said, your career is going really good. But like the network's going really good and we're doing all this stuff. But sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, personally, it doesn't reflect how good the other thing's doing. We're still hurting. It's hard to separate the two.
It is absolutely, and that's a great point. I mean, because there's the persona that you have on Facebook, or the what people see of you on Facebook rather, and then there's what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, what it might look like on Facebook is that I travel all these cool places, and I do, and I get to see these things, and I experience X, Y, and Z. But there's a lot of the times where, and we're being candid here, so where I'm home and I'm by myself and it's just me and the dog, and that can get kind of, it wears on you a little bit. You know what I mean? I do. So, I have a beautiful fiance, and she's with me every single day as well. But when she's at work, and I don't have readings, I'm at the house doing nothing, and that's when kind of my depression kicks in a little bit.
Because it's your downtime. You don't have to personify or like be like, I feel great because I'm working with you, I'm doing this for you. So you're alone, and that's when it hits.
Right. And that's when, I'm a very like social person. So when I'm around people, I can kind of be like, this is great. But when I'm by myself, that's when I get inside my head and I start to be self-deprecating sometimes. And, I'm still trying to figure out and learn how to break free from that. But that's kind of what I was trying to say is like, there's what you see on Facebook, and then there's what people are actually going through. That's why I post so much shit about, be kind to other people, and like, don't assume that their life is one way when it could very well be another. You know what I mean? Like, look at Robin Williams. Robin Williams fucking killed himself, and he looked like he was the happiest guy that you could see. He's all happy-go-lucky. And
the funnier they are, sometimes the more hurt they feel.
Yep, and it's true, and it's kind of crazy. But that's why I try to post the positive stuff and be kind to yourself, be kind to others.
You're very real on your posts, and I like it.
Well, thank you, and you as well.
I am. I share that stuff, but on my personal page, like, I don't post like all the personal stuff, and I just don't know how. Because I don't want the fake self. I don't want to make it look like I'm feeling bad for myself and I need attention, because I really don't. Trust me.
Yeah. So you find that Facebook is a perpetuator, that's right. I'm trying to figure out the right word. Perpetuator or perpetuates depression?
Sometimes, but I've never really done it. I'm just more afraid of. How do you say it? We're trying to be blunt on this episode, so I'm more. I don't share.
It's so hard to be blunt when you're not used to being blunt.
Yeah, that's why the episode 1 with Kelly and this episode's so hard, because I've been friends with people for years, and they don't know my son died in 2019. Like, I just don't share. I'm not a sharer. You tell me your problems, and I'll help you fix it. but I don't
Right.
say anything.
Right. But it's not like you relay your problems for them to fix.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I will be the first one to say, I want to help you. And then when someone's like, well, what do you need? I'm like, nothing. Yeah.
And if, I'm sorry guys, you can probably hear my dog barking in the background. I don't know if Chris can, but the listeners definitely can. She is feeling so much better in the past month with this new medicine. And she's very vocal. She's a bossy
That's
bitch,
good.
let me tell you.
Well, that's good. So she's feeling good.
Oh, she's feeling so much better. She has so much energy. She's awake all the time and bossing me around. Like right now she wants me to go out in the kitchen and cover her because she has to have a bed in every room. So half of it's on me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Animals are a great way to help with depression. That's for sure.
It is, because they're a comfort.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they talk about empathy. Talk about, especially dogs. I mean, dogs are super empathetic.
Oh, yeah. She knows, because I don't yell at her. She was abused. So I so I have a certain tone. When I say no, which isn't often, she actually listens. And when I'm sad, they know. I have a blind cat too. Yes, I have a thing for animals that nobody else wants. But I have a blind cat, and he seems to also feel and know when I need an extra loving, as I call it.
Right? Definitely. And cat, yeah, absolutely. They definitely pick up on that sort of thing.
I think so. So,
I think that.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'll edit that out. Continue. I'll edit it out.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. You say, because I forgot.
I was going to say, so if people are feeling like us or suffer from chronic depression, there's a difference between depression and chronic depression. I'm not a doctor. This is my opinion. There's a difference. So if somebody, let's start with chronic depression. Because you hear, don't go if you're sick, don't go drinking, don't go high, don't go if you're depressed because you need to protect yourself. Well, people that suffer from chronic depression, I really think they can learn how to protect themselves.
You think they can?
Can,
yeah, I think they can. And they're going to need to, especially because they, whoever's dealing with chronic depression, I mean, I deal with chronic depression, so I'm constantly having to figure out ways to protect myself, whether that's from exterior stuff like some black salt or a certain stone or, a piece of jewelry that is like your spiritual armor. That's one way to protect yourself against it. But, I mean, I think that people with chronic depression absolutely can learn to protect themselves. And I think that the steps that go to, like, having them live a normal or quote-unquote normal life, or productive life anyway, it's kind of the same measures that they can take protecting themselves from the paranormal, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense to me.
Ah.
Yeah, it really does. It's like I said, and every day's a learning experience, but you have to learn your triggers. You have to learn how to, I look at it as a bubble, like create a bubble around you that even though you're depressed when you go into this haunted location, nothing can get in that bubble. It's all about intent.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense. I kind of sound crazy.
No, I mean, it's all part of that metaphysical aspect of visualizing and manifesting what you want out of energy. So it's definitely a thing.
Yeah. Now, if you're somebody that's new to depression, that's when I think you have to be careful.
Yeah, because then you're still trying to figure out and understand your triggers and understand what are things that can make the depression worse. Especially and even with the chronic stuff too. For myself, I've tried to commit suicide twice.
Yep,
and I don't
I've
even
been
know
there.
if I told you that. I think I told you that.
Yes.
But And I'm pretty open about it. You know, I'm pretty vocal about it, especially if people ask. But I mean, there was a long time where one of the attempts that I did was I sliced myself open. I had 9 stitches in my wrist. And so there was a long time where at certain paranormal things, if I heard about a suicide, or even in my own work, if somebody came through and they had passed with a suicide, my emotional stability wavered big time, and it was really rocky. So it was hard for me to find this way to protect myself against that sort of, trigger, to think of like, holy fuck, like I was there, that was me, but I was able to make it. And then sometimes there was one paranormal place I went to, and something similar happened where a gentleman had cut his wrist and passed. And I got like survivor's guilt.
Exactly.
I'm like, well, and it was crazy thing. I'm like, well, why? What did I do to deserve life and not fall through and all this other garbage? And so those things like went through my head, and it's, for anybody who was dealing or is dealing with the same thing, like just be careful when you go to a certain situation, because it could bring back things that you're not thinking would come up,
And reach out. Like, don't deal with it yourself. If you have triggers,
no,
you reach out to anybody around you, everybody around you. Call somebody out there will connect and will know. Like, if you don't get what you need, if you don't get what you need from the first person, keep trying, because every life matters. Every life should be here, and just there's somebody there that you can connect with.
Absolutely. And even if you're feeling like, oh, a complete stranger doesn't care, you'd be surprised. In some cases, those complete strangers care more than the people that are in your life causing the depression.
Exactly.
So,
I'm always open. Message me on Messenger. I don't always accept all friend requests, but I'm there, and I look at my requests. So
Exactly. And I'm the same way.
Yeah, because I really think that a split-second decision that we make has a lifetime effect on, like, if you kill yourself, that's it, you're gone. And it causes a ripple effect for the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
But most people that live through, and correct me, but I'm pretty sure, most people that have lived through suicide attempts, and again, that I have been there, are grateful it didn't work.
I am, for sure.
Yeah.
I admittedly don't talk to many survivors, but I'm glad that you feel the same way. But yeah, I think that, once you find this newfound kind of like, reason to be here, regardless of what it is, whether it's just to be or whether it's this greater purpose or whether there's no purpose. I mean, you don't need a purpose to be here. You just need to be here.
Exactly.
I think that's one misconception too, is some people are like, oh, I need to find my thing. I need to have my place in the world. And it's like, you already have a place. You're here. Just, know that. So anybody listening too, like, you don't need this greater purpose to be here. You don't need this ultimate thing that's going to be your thing. You just need to be, and it'll find you.
It will. And we never know who we affect. Like, no. I believe that every individual affects somebody in a positive way, and they don't even know it.
Nope, exactly.
So,
even down to the very minimalist of, like, holding a door open for somebody. In the moment
smile.
They might walk by. Yeah, a smile. You open the door for somebody, and in the moment they might not even say thank you. They might keep walking by, and you might think like, wow, what a fucking asshole! Like, they didn't even say anything. But you never know. Maybe a week from then they're having coffee, and they go, wow. I completely walked past that person who opened the door for me. Like, what a great gesture.
Exactly.
And then they go ahead and they do the same thing. They pay it forward, and then they open the door for somebody, and then that person doesn't say thank you. They go, wow, what a dick. And then the cycle starts over again.
No, I've been there. I once went shopping, and the person in front of me was short by like $20 or something, and it was all food, like for kids. You could tell.
Yeah.
You can just tell. It wasn't like beer, alcohol. It was essentials. So I paid it.
Yeah, things that family would need. Yeah.
Yeah. So I paid it. I'm like, no, I got it. And then I went to the next store and bought my stuff. And I was like 50 cents short. I'm like, oh my God, now what do I do? And the person behind me who had no idea I just did it in another store gave me the 50 cents.
That's awesome. See?
Isn't it? I love that story.
And that's like the universe absolutely kind of making things full circle and bringing it around, you know?
Yep. And I don't want to say what stores, but I remember the stores. I remember the faces of people that I did it because it was just so like, all right, now I'm like, I'm digging through. I'm like, I don't have 50 cents. Like, okay, what am I putting back? And that's a horrible feeling. Everybody knows that. And the person behind me was just like, here you go.
Yep.
So, no.
I remember getting to a donuts coffee line and not having to pay for a coffee because somebody ahead of me had done it. And then I'm like, wow, like, this is actually a funny story, too. As I got to that line, they did that. The next day, I went to the same Dunkin' Donuts, and the line was, like, out the door. And I was just like, geez, oh, my God, this is going to take forever. Come to find out, everybody was paying for each other's coffee ahead of them. And that's why
love
it was taking
that.
so long. Like, it was insane. I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, everybody was just paying for the back one, and it got to my turn, and I was just like, well, might as well keep this train rolling. I was like, what's the person behind me's bill? I'll pay for him. And they were like, oh, my God, please. Like, so many people were doing it, and it was so confusing for them. They're like, you have to stop.
I love
But it was
that.
a beautiful gesture, yeah.
Yeah, I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's great.
But little things like that can absolutely make somebody's day better.
Yeah. A smile to somebody. These days with masks, it's hard to tell. But
yeah,
anything little like, hey, have a nice day, or good morning makes a big difference.
right?
Yeah.
Or just ask someone, hey, are you doing okay? How are you?
Yeah, I agree. All right, so...
So I take medication for depression, and it's helped a lot. It definitely got myself right on a good track and on the right path and feeling better. So I definitely want to start by saying, like, if anybody is thinking about doing that and thinking that they need that, talk to your doctor and make sure you make the right decision. But it could definitely be something that could give you that boost to get you out of your funk. But, my question for you, Shay, is do you think that medication can affect someone's ability to connect with the spirit side or their ability to feel kind of energy when they're out doing investigations?
Ooh. Wow, that's a question right there.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?
It is. Because every individual is different and every spirit's different. That's always my go-to answer, but it depends. I'm not a psychic medium, so I don't know what medicine... Can I ask a question of you before I answer your question?
Sure. All
right, so you take medication. Do
Yeah.
you find it lowers your does it lower your what's the word? Intuitiveness, or hires it, or nothing? Because if you feel better, wouldn't it? I don't know.
I honestly think that it doesn't change it at all. I think that it can make it stronger, if anything, because you're feeling better, like you just said.
Yeah.
If anything, like, if you're feeling depressed, it can lower your vibration, and if you're having a lower vibration, you're more willing to, or you're more able to, attract kind of lower vibrational energy. Like, if you go to a place with a dark energy, it's going to open you up to that sort of, be susceptible to that. You know what I mean?
I do.
Oh, my dog's barking.
Hi, puppy. I think that kind of answers in a roundabout way, because that's what I was thinking. Like, let's look at it as 3 lines. The middle is your normal. When you're depressed, it's lower. And then sometimes people, I don't know if this is going to make sense. Sometimes when you're really depressed or manic, there's that 3rd line and you go above and you're overdoing it. So if you're taking medication, I think that you're back once you find the right medication. That's a whole different topic. And we don't have time for it. It might take a while. But I think if you're at that middle with or without medication, as long as you can get to that middle, then that's your zone. Everybody's zone.
I think that's a great way to put it. And somebody told me this way too. For anybody who is wondering, so it's like a very good mentor of mine said, "Do you think the universe is stronger than a pill?" Or do you think a pill is stronger than the universe, rather? And that blew my mind. So I was like, wow. I was like, that's so true. I was like, if the universe, and it depends on your belief, surely, but if the universe made everything, and we're all a part of the universe, then yeah, a man-made pill is not going to be stronger than the spirit world for sure. And I have found that to be the case. Like, in my work and connecting with those on the other side, when I'm taking my medication properly and when I'm feeling my best, that's when some of the greatest evidence comes through, I feel like. So yeah, if anybody's wondering if medication, at least in my opinion, I feel like it doesn't do any disservices for sure.
Exactly. And I don't want to say that I think being on medication enhances paranormal activity, but I think it enhances the way you receive it.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yep, that's a good way to put it. It enhances your ability to be able to feel better and be able to get that energy or be receptive to that energy more than you would if you were kind of super depressed or bummed out.
Exactly. And if you're in a good place, you're able to protect yourself more from that slim 0.01% that's something demonic, which, how I feel. But even negative energy, if you're in that middle zone, you can protect yourself.
Absolutely. And you're right. There's a slim chance something negative is around you and it wants to feed off of that emotion, then yeah, it could definitely have a better chance if you're feeling low.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean the happiest person, no medicine, no depression, nothing, or that somebody like Chris or I, it doesn't mean nothing's going to happen. We can't guarantee anything. You could be at your best and something could still attach to you or hitchhike home with you.
Yep.
There's no guarantee.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's solely with, talking about somebody who is dealing with depression or anything like that. It's anybody.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, you can't say you will be, you won't be. But I just think that this is something that should be talked about more openly. And we only have an hour, so it's very hard. But I think we're very open. Before this ends, because we have like 15 minutes or so, maybe 15.
Sure.
Do you think disabilities fall into this category?
Interesting.
I can go first if you need a minute, or you can go first. It's up to you.
No. So what do you mean? What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, there's certain disabilities that I think might open people up more to it. Like, you always hear people like, children shouldn't go on investigations. People with disabilities shouldn't go on investigations. And I think it's a catch-22.
I think it is a catch-22, and it's hard to say. I think that certain people with certain disabilities could absolutely. I mean, if you have less of ability to hone in on one aspect of yourself, then that's going to heighten other aspects of yourself. And certain people with disabilities, they aren't able to do one thing, but they can do multiple other things a lot more efficiently because they're trying to or they're having to compensate for that lack of. Does that make sense?
It does. It really
So
does.
I almost think disabilities in a lot of ways are more receptive because they're having to shut down certain faculties to be able to heighten some of the other ones.
Exactly.
And I talk about that from a psychic medium's perspective, but like all the psychic faculties that we have, all the stuff that we use to feel and get energy and information and stuff, I think those can definitely be heightened, especially somebody who has that disability. I think they could,
I totally agree.
If that makes sense.
It does. It really does. And it's hard because we don't have time to specifically mention disabilities by name, nor do we want to.
Right.
That opens up a whole nother show. But like, all right. So certain disabilities, I think, let's start with this. I think psychic mediums, such, etc., etc., I think a different part of their brain works differently than mine.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. What I'm about to say is totally my opinion. So, somebody with a disability, let's say autism, like real high autism, which I have somebody very young in my family with it. So this is I'm not downgrading. I'm trying to work on fundraisers for autism. My point is if a certain part of their brain doesn't work, how do we know another part of their brain isn't working if certain doctors aren't looking for that?
That's a great question. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to answer that, but I do know that...
I don't know how to answer. It's my question, and I don't know how to answer it either. But I'm just saying, like, this is my thought process, and there's no way to figure it out. Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, no, that's okay. But it does lead me to one thing about, people with autism and being open to paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
I ran into a case where I was doing a reading for somebody. They had paranormal stuff going on with their autistic son.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing. He had an object that was his favorite thing, and nobody could touch it. And if it was missing by any stretch of the imagination, then then he would have a very hard time with it, which is very, indicative of people who suffer from severe autism. But at one point, this little girl's spirit came through during this reading, and she was saying that she took his toy, and they were like they were jokingly saying, well, can you ask her to bring it back? And so I kind of, I said, well, yeah, we can all ask her. So I said, yeah, whoever's here, can you please bring his object back, so he can have it and can be at peace again. Sure enough, the next day the woman messages me and goes, yeah, that object was on the couch the next morning.
See, I love those stories.
And the thing is it was missing, and he didn't mind. He wasn't having the crisis that he normally would, because he was open to this little girl's energy. He was open to receiving that from the spirit world. And there's a lot of interesting things that could be investigated when it comes to people that are kind of living that experience.
Yeah, as long as the people around them mean good and have their intents.
Of course.
This is my. All right, so. You know how they say children of a certain age are 3 to 5, different people say different things. 3 to 5, 3 to 6. They don't know the difference between reality and fantasy. Right? But in the paranormal world, that's the time that a lot of kids are most open. And they say they're taught, that's not real, that's not real. So they lose that psychic ability. But somebody, and again, I'm using autism because it runs in my family. It really runs in my family. So I'm using that. But somebody with autism doesn't know it's not real. Like, they're not taught that because they don't understand it. So you think somebody with autism is talking in a corner to nothing, and they could be, but they could really be a receptor for the paranormal.
Absolutely. I think 100% you're right. And that's the same, that goes with schizophrenia. That goes with other, kind of mental health disorders where people are thinking that they're talking to somebody, and multiple personalities. I mean, you think about trance work. What if these multiple personalities or things are just different spirit energies coming through these people, and they're just so open and receptive to it, they just get completely taken over. But same thing with schizophrenia or autism, like you said. You think they're communicating with, seemingly nobody, and they could very well be communicating with the spirit world as well, because, like you said, they don't know that it's not, they haven't been driven into their head that it's not a real thing, which it certainly is. But,
exactly.
That's a very good point, and I think that's something that not a lot of people kind of discuss and talk about.
We don't, and we should. But I think the problem is again, the underlying problem is the paranormal is not a proven science. So we can't go back and do research on these individual, and I'm trying really hard not to mention myself. Chris is welcome to say anything he wants. But if it's not a proven science, there's no way to go back and do research on autism, on schizophrenia, on bipolar, on there's no way to have a baseline. So we don't know. So these people are. This is going to sound horrible the way I'm about to word it, and I don't mean it. But there's no way to prove or disprove these people as much as somebody that doesn't have depression or these other what's the word?
Mental health issues
something. There's no underlying base for proving or disproving. So it's so hard.
Right, because it's been such a thing that's been not looked into from mainstream science. I mean, metaphysics and the paranormal is so underneath the radar when it comes to mainstream science, which is really sad because there's a whole wealth of knowledge that can be gained if more. And I can't say research is done because there's research being done all day, but what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe if more mainstream scientists look into this stuff, it might kind of crack some codes that we as paranormal enthusiasts aren't able to do because of lack of technology or lack of baseline evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We just need another Tesla born.
What's that?
We need another Tesla born.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we need another guy like Tesla.
Yeah.
And not Elon.
Yeah, that doesn't care what he sounds like. Or maybe we need more people like you and me to discuss it, and maybe it will be looked into.
I think that's something as well. Is the more of us that talk about this, and the more of us that kind of shed light on some of these parts of it, because it's not just you hear a knock on the wall aspects of paranormal. There's so much more to it.
There really is, and I'm a big one on every individual case needs to be looked at individually. You can't clump it all into one. That's just how I am.
No, and I fully agree with that. And, and another example of how mental health kind of can manifest into the paranormal, I was at a case, a home case, where this gentleman thought there was a lot of, he felt that there was some energies going on in his home. So I went to investigate. Come to find out, there was nothing really paranormal going on. It was it was a manifestation of his own depression and his own memories and things that happened in the house. There were certain rooms that he wouldn't go into because he felt one way or the other, and there were certain things that he thought he saw that he was exactly, and he was reliving his post-traumatic stress, and he was kind of reliving these things, and it was really fascinating for me to go there and say, hey, there's nothing paranormal going on here. This is literally a manifestation of the depression and the anger and the sadness that has gone on in this home.
Yeah,
so
I've had to do that.
And I wonder how many times in investigations that's mistaken for paranormal.
So there was no, I don't want to get into my feelings of this, but there was no poltergeist activity. It was all memory.
It was all memory, no poltergeist activity whatsoever. It was all memory and feeling and then just a manifestation of that. So nothing was moved around. Nothing was kind of...
No, it was just all like his PTSD. I love that you brought that up because as a paranormal investigator and you a psychic medium / paranormal investigator, I remember the first time I had to tell quote unquote client, they weren't paying me, but client, that there was no activity. I actually cried because I didn't think she was lying because she really, really believed it. But after months and months and months and months, we just had nothing. And I actually, tears, I'm like trying to tell her there's no activity here. I cried.
Yeah. So, I hear you picking up on that, picking up on that feeling and that emotion and, all the,
embarrassment of her and it was horrible.
There's times where I've gone on investigations too where paranormal has led someone to attempt suicide.
Oh yeah.
That was early on. I went to a case and this woman's note was still on her table. So we investigated very much her, after the event, and That was a tough one, but that was very much a paranormal event. That was a very dark energy that led her to do that. So, there's another aspect of depression and paranormal is it can creep in on you because she was a happy person. She was a very, it wasn't circumstantial. It wasn't clinical depression. This was a paranormal thing that drained her so much, and it led her to feel like
seeped
it's
in.
so other options.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's tough.
No, and it's like some investigators feel one way, like depression, sweep it under the rug. No. Depression or no depression, this could be real, and you need to look at it like it's real.
Exactly. Every case should be looked at as if it's real and then proven that it's not.
Yeah. Or the other way. Yeah. Some people, whichever. If you were one that goes in trying to debunk, then that's what you do. You don't change it because of depression or non-depression. Whatever you do, you just stick to your routine.
Yeah, stick to the program.
Yeah, and hopefully our hour is up. Hopefully we talk about this again. I'm sure we will. We talk about it privately to each other all the time. So hopefully we can revisit this.
I would like that.
I would too. I really, really would, because it's a hard topic. This was not easy for me to talk about.
No, this was a tough one, I gotta say. It was a hard conversation, but I'm glad we had it.
I am too. We talked openly and freely and everything flowed really good, but we've been planning this for a year. That's how long it actually took us to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've been talking about doing something to help people and share our story and let people know that there is hope.
There is. There's always hope. And if you're feeling sad and you want to hurt yourself, just reach out. Just reach out to somebody. And if that somebody doesn't, reach out to another person, because they love to say this, but as a person that has tried to kill myself, I feel this is kind of true. What you feel is temporary. If you kill yourself, that's permanent. And it might be temporary for years. Who knows? But it's temporary. And you don't want a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
That's right. It
Does
might
that make
seem
sense?
overwhelming and insurmountable, but you can get through it, and you will.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. I hope everybody understood what we were trying to say. Chris, since this is season 4 and the first time you're on as a co-host, always your co-host, but can you throw out your social media?
My social media, you can find me at Psychic Medium Christopher at Facebook. You can also catch me on YouTube at the I Fucking Knew It YouTube channel. And you can catch me working with Toby Hartford on our web series Soul Searching on YouTube as well as Facebook.
Yes. So check him out. And as always, again, I just want to say my messenger is always open. I check my messenger requests. If you need something, just message me.
Likewise. I am always available.
Both of us. And we both mean that. So, all right, guys. Good night. Thank you for listening.
Peace, guys. Take care.